I'm suggesting that you be at least an 8 in your excitement level about the role based off of what you see. And that's your excitement level. Now let's get to the qualifications. Are you at least 60% of the way there? Because not every candidate is going to have everything, because there are also
nobody does.
some known factors that are going to come into play that are never going to be on a job description. Ethics and integrity are not going to necessarily show up, but how you treat people throughout the interview process can easily be a game changer. So rapport building, like that's a very squishy kind of thing that some people are really able to do an amazing job at doing through the interview process that wins over a hiring manager that is not going to show up on a job description. So what I mean by all of this is that the job description is like a scant. It's a tiny little window into what that is all about. Men or women, you should definitely have an opinion before you decide to go ahead and jump into that, rather than just soothe the anxiety of applying just because it feels like you're being productive. That's being busy, not productive. So, buyer beware.
Yeah, I really completely agree. And the stats throughout the years, there have been lots of studies that reflect what you just said, Loren. It does tend to have it has a fair amount of bias associated with the fact that for years, there's also the confidence issue, and the fact that, and I know my wife and I have talked about that in the past, where she actually never had to, she hasn't had to apply for a job in more than 30 something years. She's retired now. So she never had to really fight through job descriptions, except from when she first got out of college, and maybe one other two times in that. So, but having said that, we've seen times, and we've talked about, because sometimes I say, hey, you should read this. This is pretty funny. And sometimes they're just so vague that I understand too that HR is trying to avoid the legal aspects of some of the duties that are posted and how they position things. But at the same time, then if you're not posting the job as it stands currently, and you're posting it from 10 years ago, you have completely you've misrepresented, or we could just say you lied. You're lying about the position, though that may not be the intent, because you're trying to post a position because the process is way too long. Now, I understand that some companies go through quite a tedious process in making sure a job description is right. However, you're misleading a candidate, because all you have to go by is your word. You're giving directions to your building, and you say turn left and say right instead of right. Sure, that's a mistake, but somebody's gone the wrong way and may never reach you. So it's the same thing in a job description. You're giving directions and they have no idea. So let's say you get the job description and you get to the first phone call screening. They ask you what the salary is. Now they got to give a accurate job salary idea from the wrong job description you gave them. I mean, there's all kinds of wrongs that are along the line. And I think it's led people, when you see the statistics that, and I know some of it's kind of politically angled in the sense that, say, most people regret the jobs that they left. Well, most of the people regret the jobs they left built on bad data, and more often than not, because of lack of communication. And, the article goes into it, and she says to the companies, it's your fault. It's your fault that you misled, and that even the recruiters are in the dark at times. Now, Jack, in your industry might be a little bit different, but I know I've talked to recruiters, and they look at a job description and go, really? So when somebody asks for a market rate salary, they give the market rate. But you're looking at the job description and that's your evidence, and say, well, this is what the job description. I'm not saying that's exactly how the conversation goes, but only thing they have gone is the data that you put out there. So, then it becomes a lousy onboarding process because they're expecting one thing based on what you put out there, and then they're experiencing something else. It's a bait and switch, like it says in the article. And even long-term employees, they say, I've been in the job 10 years, and this is nothing like that.